What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Mike Tyson dispensing advice to Conor McGregor as Michael Bisping shakes his head. Conor McGregor's highly anticipated return to the octagon is set to take place later this year, opponent and date still to be decided. He's already back hitting the mitts and it won't be long before he's back at full MMA training, about a year after he suffered a broken leg injury last July against Dustin Poirier in their trilogy fight. McGregor has been calling out champions of both lightweight and welterweight divisions, but most recently made it clear he'd prefer to fight in the welterweight division, as he has put on more size while away from the cage, hitting the weights and looking beefy. Still, when McGregor gets back into the octagon, he won't have only been recovering from a broken leg injury. He'll also be trying to get back to his winning ways, as he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights in the cage dating back to 2018. That's why, in a recent interview with Henry Cejudo, Mike Tyson stated that Conor should have a tune-up fight or more to get his confidence back. This is what Tyson said.
Well, Conor, I think you should build your confidence up and go do what you do. Win excitingly.
Yeah. Who would you like to pinpoint on his return? I think Tony Ferguson might.
Well, that's a tough fight, man.
You think so?
Yeah, he's warrior regardless. If he lose, he makes exciting fights. You know, it's hard to beat that guy.
So what would you say then, Mike? Pinpoint somebody from...
No, I wasn't no big-time guy. Let him get 3 fights and build confidence back up. Every fight, the opponent goes to a higher level.
In response to those comments, the Count, Michael Bisping, came out with a video talking about Tyson's advice and mentioned how he's not completely on board with that idea. This is what Bisping stated.
You go up against the champ, Charles Oliveira, you get beeps, well, so what? No big deal. Everybody's losing to him right now. Charles Oliveira is the man. However, he loses to someone ranked down the pecking order, ranked 5, 6, 7, something like that. Then, of course, now it's a very, very different conversation that's taking place.
Bisping talks about how Tyson's advice is great for boxers, but MMA has a very different risk-reward ratio, and stated that McGregor should simply go for the biggest fight he can go for, as he doesn't know how much time he has left at the peak of his skills. What do you think about Tyson's advice to Conor? What are your thoughts on Bisping saying otherwise? Paulo Costa vehemently denies assault allegation over vaccine card. A recent altercation got Paulo Costa in hot water in Brazil. Reports out of the South American country say he was arrested for allegedly elbowing a nurse at a medical facility over a vaccination card. Reports say he attempted to leave the facility with the card, although he didn't agree to be vaccinated, and when a nurse tried to stop him, Costa allegedly hit her or them with an elbow. This is really a case of he said, she said, as there's no video footage, just a few witnesses, all of whom, according to public reports, are hospital staff. No injuries were reported. Costa is now issuing a public denial of what allegedly transpired. In a recent video on his YouTube channel, this is what Costa stated in Portuguese. "This assault that she accused me of never existed. Not this assault and not any other assault from me to any woman or person. I vehemently deny this fact and would never do, especially an elbow to the face like this person alleges." Costa is currently slated to fight Luke Rockhold in a middleweight bout at a UFC Fight Night event on August 20th, although this fight has been delayed a few times already. The vaccination card, however, is important, as Costa will likely need it to travel to the United States for this fight, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. What do you make of this whole situation? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to stay up to date over the latest fight news. A proper training camp can help Tony Ferguson beat Charles Oliveira, says El Cucuy. Tony Ferguson is not short on confidence, and it shows. He's been one of the top lightweights for several years, having earned an interim title, but just never got the chance to fight for the undisputed belt due to injuries, and just plain old bad luck on several occasions. But despite this, he remains a ferocious competitor. Fans were keen to see how he would fare against former Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler at UFC 274 last month. While Tony talked about how much clearer his goals were and how great of a training camp he had for this fight, ultimately, Tony got caught with a well-timed front kick to the face and was knocked unconscious for the very first time in his career. Despite his devastating knockout, Tony still feels he can beat the best guys in the world, and he's taking aim at #1 contender Charles Oliveira in a recent tweet. This is what Ferguson stated about Oliveira, mentioning their first fight back in late 2020. "Nothing personal, but I really didn't train anything for Charles. He's a good kid, he needed a boost. I'll see him again. Any of them with real training and I win." Khabib, on the other hand, would be a fun one the fans would like. Ferguson mentions his recent verbal exchanges with Khabib Nurmagomedov over the media, in which both men agreed that a clash between them would be really exciting and interesting for the fans. While that's unlikely to take place anytime soon, any clash with Oliveira is also highly unlikely to take place. Oliveira is the #1 contender for the vacated lightweight title after missing weight before UFC 274 and then submitting Justin Gaethje in the very first round. Still, Ferguson is on a 4-fight losing streak, having succumbed to Gaethje, Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, and Michael Chandler. This comes after he went on a 12-fight win streak. What are your thoughts on Tony's comments about any potential clash against Oliveira? Ask the referee about Jairzinho Rozentruik stoppage, says Alexander Volkov. UFC Vegas 56 is now in the books, and there's some in the media who believe there's a bit of controversy when it came to the headline fight. It was a clash of top 10 heavyweights, as number 8 ranked Jairzinho Rozentruik took on number 7 ranked Alexander Volkov over the weekend at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. The fight was over in the very first round after Volkov landed a big right on Jairzinho that wobbled the Suriname fighter, prompting the Russian to swarm ahead towards Rozentruik, landing some big right hands as he looked to end the bout. Referee Herb Dean stepped in and stopped the fight, but some say that Jairzinho didn't look too out of the fight and that it was too early of a stoppage. When asked whether he thought it was an early stoppage, this is what Volkov had to say.
He takes some my hard punches, and he was little bit knocked out. So it's not my fault. And ask about this referee, not me. I just did my job.
This is Volkov's first win since he lost to Tom Aspinall this past March at UFC London, and his 4th win over his last 6 fights. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jairzinho's loss to Volkov will most certainly put him lower in the rankings later this week, as this is now 2 losses in a row and his 4th loss in his last 6 fights. Do you feel the stoppage was too early, or was referee Herb Dean right in stopping the bout when he did? Chael Sonnen and TJ Dillashaw sort of agree over stubborn Cody Garbrandt. In a recent interview on The Shop Show, former bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw took aim at Cody Garbrandt, saying his former teammate is dumb for not taking advantage of his abilities and always just wants to stand and bang. Garbrandt showed a lot of striking prowess early on in his career. He was undefeated at 11-0 when he beat Dominic Cruz by decision back in December 2016 at UFC 207 when he captured the bantamweight belt. Up to that point, he had racked up 9 knockouts or TKO finishes, 4 of them in the UFC. But right after that Cruz fight, Cody fought his ex-friend and former alpha male teammate in TJ Dillashaw. The lead up to that fight saw a lot of animosity on both sides, with mudslinging hitting both sides of the fence. TJ finished Cody in that fight by a 2nd round TKO. Cody was given an immediate rematch for the title, and once again, TJ finished him, this time by knockout in the 1st round. He's been knocked out twice since then, by Pedro Munoz and most recently by Kai Kara France in Cody's flyweight debut last December. There's a theme here that Dillashaw spoke about during his interview, and it's the fact that Cody continues to get into barn burners, throwing hands and caution to the wind. This is in spite of the fact that Cody was a high-level wrestler, according to many. In a recent video on his YouTube channel, Uncle Chael Sonnen stated he agreed with TJ here, but he was more diplomatic about it. This is what he said.
And TJ made an observation, and he actually complimented Cody. He talked about how fast he is, how fast those hands are, and he said, but he's too dumb within the sport. Now, that's a way that an opponent would word it, right? I'm an advocate. I'll see TJ's point. I'll just word it differently. Cody's stubborn. That's true.
What do you think about TJ and Chael's comments about Garbrandt? Thanks so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.